Give us a very strong impression you love your work.
Oh, intensely. I wouldn't be in it. If I ever stop loving it, I'll shift it and go over into something else. I don't think life is worth living unless you're doing something you love completely, so that you get out of bed in the morning and want to rush to do it. If you're doing something mediocre, if you're doing something to fill in time, life really isn't worth living. I can't understand people not living at the top of their emotions constantly, living with their enthusiasms, living with some sense of joy, some sense of creativity. I don't care on how small a level it is. If you're a mathematician and love figures, great, you know. I don't understand that. I've never been any good at figures. But if you love it and you tell me you love it, boy, are you lucky. I don't care what field it is, though. And there's got to be a field for everyone, doesn't there?
It seems to me that when it's time to die, and that will come to all of us, there'd be a certain pleasure in thinking that you had utilized your life well, that you had learned as much as you could, gathered in as much as possible of the universe, and enjoyed it. I mean, there's only this one universe and only this one lifetime to try to grasp it. And while it is inconceivable that anyone can grasp more than a tiny portion of it, at least do that much. I mean, what a tragedy just to pass through and get nothing out of it. I'm gradually managing to cram my mind more and more full of things. I've got this beautiful mind, and it's going to die, and it'll all be gone. And then I say, not in my case. Every idea I've ever had, I've written down, and it's all there on paper. And I won't be gone. It'll be there.
The important thing in life is to follow your passion, no matter what it is, for whatever mysterious reasons.
Tonight, when you get in bed, look at the ceiling, and say to yourself, what do I love? What can I do that I love for the rest of my life? When I was very young, people told me not to fall in love with the motion picture of Lon Chaney. I fell in love with the Phantom of the Opera and many of the other Lon Chaney films. People told me not to fall in love with dinosaurs. I saw them in early films. People told me not to become a magician, but I came to Chicago once a year when I was a young man, when I was 7, 8 years old, to see Blackstone the magician on the stage there. And I grew up, and I did it, didn't I? I became a magician.
There are some things that simply don't strike my fancy, and I doubt that I can force myself to be educated in it. I have never really been interested in economics, for instance, or in psychology, or in art as a non-spectator to really know what art is all about. And therefore, even if I try to read about it, it bounces off. On the other hand, when there's a subject I'm ferociously interested in, then it is easy for me to learn about it. I read it, I absorb it, I take it in gladly and cheerfully. I've written more books on astronomy than on any other science, and no one has ever complained that my astronomical books are wrong, silly, anything like that. I've never taken a course in astronomy. I'm completely self-trained in it. On the other hand, I've written relatively few books on chemistry, which is my training. I've got a PhD in chemistry. But I know too much chemistry to get excited over it, whereas astronomy is different.
And along the way, people told me not to fall in love with all kinds of movies. So I've seen every movie ever made. And when I grew up, I began to be interested in doing films. My love of dinosaurs is quite obvious, and I wrote about dinosaurs in my various books, and I gave one of those books to John Huston, the great film director, and he read one of my dinosaur stories and said, my God, this has got to be the son of Herman Melville. I'll give him the job of writing the screenplay of Moby Dick. So you see, that's the way I got the job. By falling in love with dinosaurs when I was 6, it stayed with me all of my life and changed my life. So you see, it was love was making me function all the time. Love operates for me. I do things what I want. With being in love with something, you can take the job. Otherwise, don't take it.
I wake up in the morning, I'm sick and tired of what I'm doing, I do something else.
So you've got about 6 typewriters there in the house where you can go to one to one to one?
Well, I've got several,
You've got
but I
6
only use
storylines
one.
going. Yeah.
I only use one, but I take out pieces of paper and put in different pieces of paper. I've written a 2-volume book on Shakespeare, a 2-volume analysis of the Bible, and I've written, about 12 or 13 history books. I've written mysteries as well as science fiction. I've written books for young people, and I've written a 3-volume history of physics.
And what do you want people to say about you? Do you want them to say he was prolific, he was prophetic, or do you care about them saying, here is a great writer?
Oh, I doubt that anyone will ever say I'm a great writer. I hope they say, here's one fellow who got a lot of pleasure out of writing. Someone once said, what do you need to start writing? And I said, a typewriter within reach. Well, it's been suggested that since I can probably make enough by working half the year, why don't I relax the other half? And I said, well, I would, but just to pass the time away, do you mind if I write?
Actually, what it amounts to is that I'm not happy except when I'm writing. It's the only way, it's almost the only way I can think of to spend my time pleasantly. And so I'm naturally drawn to the typewriter at all times. The day is lost in which I don't type.